deal with institutions where investment surpasses 50 billion. So it's not informal at any moment. It's an enterprise.
A lot of changes have happened. One of them is the expansion of the infrastructure, so the road capacity certainly has improved. Number two is that there has been a policy change, especially in land transport. For the first time, KEPSA's lobbying, a transport policy has been formulated and adopted. And for the first time, there is a National Transport and Safety Authority, a land transport regulator and manager that has never been. When we go to the airlines, you notice that all airports were managed as individual. Now all airports now are managed by Airports Authority. We have seen the expansion of Jomo Kenyatta Airport. We have seen the expansion of Kisumu Airport. And when we go to Marine, there was no Marine Authority.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have to move on for constraints of time, but not before applauding what you would have registered in what you've seen as the great success story of KEPSA at 10. Thank you very much, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'd now like to invite in quick succession, with the emphasis on the word quick, 5 speakers. I'm going to start off with the Chief Executive Officer of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, KEPSA, Ms. Carol Kariuki.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols having been observed, because we have 2 presidents and they have to leave, so we'll cut our program short. But before that, I really want to say thank you. Thank you to all of you who are here today to celebrate with us KEPSA's 10 years. I take this opportunity to congratulate Your Excellency and all Kenyans as Kenya turns 50. It has been a journey each one of us has been part of in one way or another, and we take pride in how far we have come as we soldier on, because God has brought us this far. This afternoon, I know some of you have traveled great distances, and some have sacrificed their weekend with families and friends to join us on this occasion. Others, with a change of dates, have not been able to join us, but they are with us, and I would have loved to be. Your Excellencies, I have been looking forward to this event for many months now, but time will not allow us to say everything. I would have loved to say so much about KEPSA and the private sector of Kenya, but you've watched a documentary, and each of you will go home with a copy today so that you can keep seeing the story of where KEPSA and the private sector has come in the last 10 years. You have what the organization is today, but through the organization, we've worked to build the economy as we celebrate today, and it promises for the generations to come. But let me highlight just a few things that make this day very special for us at KEPSA as the voice of the private sector. Your Excellencies, over the last 10 years, the people of this country and the business community have written their success stories over and over again. In almost every major indicator of the economy, Kenya's progress has been remarkable. At the time of our establishment in 2003, the real GDP growth was about 3%. We have seen that grow to highs of 7.1%. From a gross domestic investment of 12% of GDP in 2002, through increased private sector investments, and this has increased to 21.8% by 2012. The world's average value is 22.2%. So we're doing well as a country, and we should really be grateful and soldier on. In 2002, total employment stood at 6.9 million persons in both formal and informal sectors, with the informal private sector accounting for 74% of the jobs. A decade later, total employment in the private sector, both formal and informal, constitutes over 80% of national employment. Once again, KEPSA can take immense pride in the work the private sector has done in facilitating more employment over the generations. The list Just to sum it up, we have all seen tremendous growth in the private sector, in the education sector, pre-primary to university, the real estate, transport and communication, manufacturing, wholesale, retail and distribution services. And today, we've seen and heard from some of the youth that benefited from the pilot program, which you will see in the documentary. We really wish you would have seen them speak and perform and talk about what Kenya Youth Empowerment Program has meant to them. This has been the first part of the World Bank, the Government of Kenya, and Kenya Private Sector Alliance. Your Excellency, today the progress we've made is the envy of most African countries. Success in convening the private sector and partnership with government has become a case study for most African nations. At KEPSA, we never shy away from engaging all arms of the government, the executive, the legislature, and judiciary in efforts to better our businesses. We do this through the Ministerial Stakeholder Forum, and many have started meeting. In the last 6 months, 8 out of the 18 ministries have already met and progressed certain issues. The Presidential Roundtable, of which is going to be launched soon, as a continuation of what we did before. The Speakers Roundtable, and today we are honored to have our former Speaker who started this roundtable, Honorable Marende. Asante sana. The Chief Justice Forum, who was not able to join us, the Attorney General Forum, and he's here with us again, just as an honor, and what we've done a lot of work with him over the years. Development partners, and we have the World Bank, I've seen DFID, I've seen the US Embassy, and many others who have joined us today. And again, we say thank you for the partnership you've had with KEPSA. And under the new administration, KEPSA has expanded the Speakers Roundtable to include the Senate, and we've already met with the Senate and the new Parliament. And we have also introduced the platform with the governors, starting with Nairobi, and as we go to next year, we'll be venturing out into all the different counties. Your Excellencies, I would not miss if I did not mention KEPSA's success. I would be remiss if I did not mention KEPSA's success over the course of the last 10 years. It will not have been possible without the dedication of our staff. For me personally, it has been an honor to lead that organization. I would also it would not have also been possible without the directors, and they'll be mentioned, and the governors, and all the private sector leaders, and the association CEOs who work every day to ensure that the sector boards work. I would also like to make a special mention of the contribution of past and present chairs. Dr. Manu Chandaria, who would have loved to be with us, but is out of the country. Lee Karori, who is here, we really appreciate him. Steve Smith, again, who is not here. Karanja Kabage, who is here with us. Engineer Patrick Obath, and the current Bimal Shah. All the directors, governors, past and present, we really appreciate you. Your Excellency, as I finish, we talk about the tigers of the Asian economy. And today, the conversation is about the lions of African economy. Kenya stands to lead the pack. And as you've noticed, our theme is inspiring a new era. And the lion is our symbol of what we see of Kenya's economy in the next 10 years. There is great reason to celebrate and be optimistic of where we are going. Kenya has it all. The best weather for any business to operate in, 5 hours flight to any part of African continent in terms of the north, the east, the west, and the south, access by road to the east and central Africa. We're the only country in the world with the 5 climatic conditions. Nairobi is the only world city with a national park. We take pride as one of the most educated and skilled in Africa. Trust me, the next great innovation after M-Pesa will still come from Kenya. And I know Bob Collimo from Safaricom is here with us too. I could go on and on. Like the lion, we carry the strength and the ability to lead. And we have done that in many fronts, and we shall continue to do so. The private sector is overly optimistic. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kariuki. Our brothers from Sri Lanka today might not mark the best example of our weather, but you can imagine what it can be with some sunshine. Today marks the final day of deliberations of the Kenya-Sri Lanka Business Forum, and I would now like to invite Mr. Kiprono Kitonyi, Chairman of the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry and a Director of KEPSA, to give us a report on those discussions.
Thank you very much, John. Your Excellency, President Rajapaksa of the Socialist Democratic Republic of Sri Lanka, Your Excellency, our beloved President, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to ask my business colleagues from Sri Lanka to come forward so we can move a bit faster. We are cognizant of the extreme pressure on time. I'll make very, very few remarks about what we have done today. Firstly, I'd like to, on behalf of the entire Kenyan private sector, extend once again a very, very warm welcome to the President of Sri Lanka and the business delegation and government delegation that has accompanied him on this state visit to Kenya. Your Excellency, my task this morning is very simple. It is to report on the business forum between the members of the Kenyan private sector and the Sri Lanka private sector that was held this morning. And I'd like to start by saying that it was an extreme success. Given that it was in the middle of a long weekend, we had a room that was overflowing with business people eager and ready to do business. That is a clear manifestation of the seriousness with which our business community takes the partnership that you present to us through this state visit. Your Excellencies, I'll go very quickly into what I consider was achieved this morning. Firstly, we looked at the sectors of the business persons that you brought with you on the delegation, and there is a great interest in our business community in the rubber products produced from Sri Lanka. We looked at and identified scopes of partnership in tourism and in leather, and we're glad to note that one of the business leaders from the Sri Lankan delegation is willing to set up a leather processing plant in Kenya. Sri Lanka and Kenya share a heritage in the production of tea, and partnerships are being pursued for the value addition of tea, and we're glad to note that Kenyan tea is used to blend Sri Lankan tea on the world market. Now, Your Excellencies, we also want to use this very brief occasion to appreciate the role, the great organizational ability that we noted in the business community through the Commonwealth Business Forum held in Colombo alongside the Commonwealth Heads of State and Government. It was a great achievement by Sri Lanka, and it is something that we in Kenya would like to emulate going forward. I'd also like to use this opportunity to conclude by also thanking our government for taking on the economic diplomacy as a key agenda in driving business and opening export markets for Kenyan businesses overseas. So with those few words, I'd like to say that on behalf of the Kenyan business community, we congratulate KEPSA on their 10th anniversary, and we congratulate our government for really creating an environment where we can do business, and we are here ready and willing to do business. I'd like to call upon my colleague from Sri Lanka to come and give a summary of their outcome of this business forum today before we proceed to sign an MOU between our chamber and the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you very much.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, it is my great pleasure to address you on behalf of the Sri Lankan business community who had a great visit to Kenya. And it is extremely successful, and I thank both governments and congratulate both governments on behalf of the business community for this great effort taken to jointly create more wealth for the two countries. We are two great nations, and I'm sure this visit, as we have experienced previously with our able leadership of our great president, His Excellency Mahinda Rajapaksa, previous visits into other countries have given us so much additional business with those countries. I'm sure this visit is going to do the same with our great friends in Kenya. Thank you very much for accommodating us and for the wonderful hospitality in Kenya. And going into details, we have had special interest in IT sector, where 4 companies have come forward for joint venture and work with our IT sector, and also the BPO operations to be conducted in Sri Lanka. Then in the power sector, we have had great success because of interest in sharing our experience in the power sector with our friends in Kenya. Then coming into the construction sector, we are proud to say our Sri Lankan construction industry is already operating in Kenya successfully, and this visit is going to extend their applications for other fields as well. And in the apparel sector, it has been very good, joint interest from both sides for the further success in the apparel sector. And in the leather sector, as my colleague mentioned, it is going to be a joint venture or an investment in Kenya. And also in the PVC sector, there will be interest in both countries as well as investments in Kenya. And agriculture sector, it is technology transfer for fruit and vegetable sector from Kenya to Sri Lanka, and also vice versa for the tea sector to bring technology into Kenya. And last but not least, I thank everybody again for the wonderful hospitality extended to us. And now it is the time for this historical signing of the MOU between the two great nations. Thank you very much.
May I please invite Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed and the Professor G.L. Pires to come and witness the signing. And in the interest of time, as this goes on, I'm going to invite Mr. Vimal Shah, Chairperson of KEPSA, to talk to us.
Thank you, John. Your Excellency, the President, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, Your Excellency, the President of Sri Lanka, Mahinda Rajapaksa, all distinguished guests, all VIPs, all protocols observed. A very, very good afternoon to you all. It's truly my honor and pleasure today to be standing in front of you celebrating the 10 glorious years of KEPSA. And I think as KEPSA is known as the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, I'll keep it short and say KEPSA. What a ride it's been, 10 years. And I think in the last 10 years, we've got a lot to be proud of. A lot of things have happened in the last 10 years. We've unified the voices of the entire private sector in Kenya. And I think dovetailing the 10 years celebration with the 50-year celebration of Kenya is probably the biggest highlight. And we've got 2 presidents witnessing this. So I think I would like the entire private sector people here to stand up and be recognized so that we can actually give you a big hand for what you've done in the past 10 years. Everybody in private sector, please stand up and let's give yourselves a big hand. Thank you. Thank you very much. You may all sit down now. Now, we've recognized all of you, and this is the private sector. Your Excellencies, our private sector here in Kenya is pretty robust. It's pretty ready, and I think Kenya today stands at a significant point in history with millions of positive possibilities. The private sector is now healthy, robust. It's driving faster economic growth through investments, employment, business creation, innovation, and knowledge transfer. I think the private sector now plays a very positive role in the policy-making arena and legislation whose quantum effect can now be seen in much of the economic recovery and the radical transformation that's happened. However, today we are unveiling a rejuvenated KEPSA with a new logo called the Lions on the roar, Lions on the move, and I think this is going to be unveiled as we go forward so that you realize what we're looking at. Your Excellency, President Kenyatta, we are committed to, in the next 2-3 years, to take Kenya to number 50 position in the World Competitiveness Index and the doing business indicators. So we want to go to number 50 from where we are today. In line with our public-private partnership now, we're changing that 3P to 4P, people, public, private partnership, and together we shall make it even better. Today, it's my delight to say 10 years of real engagement, 10 years of real empowerment, and I think we must say to all the presidents, I think President Kibaki, President Kenyatta, in the past, all the cabinet secretaries, all the people who've assisted us to engage fruitfully, I think without your support, it would not have happened. So I think let's give a hand to both the past president and the current president. Thank you. We are knitted together, we are unified, and together we shall achieve our goals. Your Excellency, the private sector truly is united together, and really we want to make this happen. I think going forward, we have a lot at stake. As you said in the last 2 days, I think, Your Excellency, in your speeches, we are ready. We are like a plane on the runway with 2 engines running, with a crew on board, and the plane is ready for takeoff. And I think this takeoff has to happen. All we need is the energy to make it take off, and I think together we shall work to make it happen. Warner Ahad has said, and I quote, "Create your future from your future, not your past." And I think, let us bury the past, everybody, 10 years, 50 years, and let's move on. Let's create a future from our future. I had a long speech which I shall publish and give it across, but in the interest of time, the issue is we've got to look at where we are. Vision 2030, in 2030, what are we going to look like? And I think coming back from there, we will come back and say, fine, let's start our journey today. There is no time to waste. 2030 is 16 years from now. You can call it 17 years if you take December. But I think there is a lot of good news. We are on a right footing. Your Excellency, just to tell you, all the investors here in Kenya are currently ready and very positive about what the country has to offer in the long term. We have all the mechanics, all the ingredients, we have the people, we have the sun, we have the soil, we have the water, we have the oil now, we have the gas. And I think overall, we have a real best human capital. Kenya is second to none in terms of our human capital. And I think we need to really upgrade this to a level where we take leadership in everything we do. The hubbing of Kenya to become the hub for Kenya, for Africa, the hub for Africa, for telecommunications, for airlines. And I think Kenya Airways here is going to become much bigger. But also communications, and also in terms of leadership in private sector. I think we see Kenya as the hub where our business strategies, our policies, will have Pan-African companies coming out of Kenya, which will take over a lot of areas. With that, I just want to thank every one of you for coming today. We have a slight rush for our program today, otherwise my speech would have been 2 hours long. But Your Excellencies need to move to Masai Mara, and therefore we're going to cut it short. Can I just request all the board directors, all the governors in the past and present to stand up where you are, and let's recognize you for giving KEPSA a big role in the last 10 years. Can you all stand up where you are, and we'll give you a round of applause. Thank you. It is now my humble honor and privilege to ask Polycarp Igate to come and say a few words. And just before Eden, just to say two, 3 words and sort a few things out. I know we're rushed for time, and thereafter he will call upon Cabinet Secretary Aden Mohammed. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, ladies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocols being observed, good afternoon. I stand in front of you to do a simple job, and that is to recognize ladies and gentlemen who have served with distinction. And Your Excellencies, I'll be respectively inviting you to take a photo op with them because we don't have an opportunity to present every gift. And I'll start with the first group of directors who have served KEPSA in the past. I'll call you in 5. We'll do this very quickly so that we can move on. I'll start with the directors.